Every vertebrate on Earth has hemoglobin. Fish, birds, reptiles, mammals, amphibians. You. The iron-rich protein that binds oxygen, carries it through your bloodstream, and turns your blood red. 400 million years of vertebrate evolution and one constant, one non-negotiable molecule. Remove it, and the organism dies. That's the rule you've been taught your whole life. Now picture yourself in 1928 on a small ship near Antarctica. Bouvet Island, Southern Ocean. A Norwegian biologist named Ditlev Rustad pulls a fish out of the water and cuts it open to examine the gills. The blood that comes out is clear, not pale, not faded pink, but clear like water. He notes it in his records and assumes the fish is sick. He's wrong. He's looking at biology breaking on purpose. Yeah. So what is this fish? And how does something run without the molecule that defines being a vertebrate? Here's what we knew before the ice fish. Hemoglobin is an oxygen taxi. It picks up O2 in the lungs or gills, carries it through the blood, drops it off at the cells. Without it, oxygen just dissolves in plasma, loosely, slowly, inefficiently. The transport capacity drops to about 10% of normal. 10%? That's not a downgrade. That's running a delivery service with no trucks. For 26 years after Rustad's observation, nobody took it seriously. It wasn't until 1954 that Johan Ruud, another Norwegian biologist, confirmed it with a full blood analysis. No hemoglobin. Not reduced, not modified. Gone. Not a single molecule in the bloodstream. 16 species. An entire family of vertebrates, Channicthiidae, operating without the thing every other vertebrate on Earth requires to exist. Cool. So if you take out the engine of vertebrate respiration, what do you replace it with? 5 things, and none of them work in normal conditions. First, the heart. Ice fish have hearts up to 4 times larger relative to body size than other fish, with more volume and more pumping capacity, so the blood moves faster and in greater quantity through your circulatory system. Second, the blood volume itself. 2 to 4 times more blood per kilogram of body weight than your typical fish, giving more liquid to carry the dissolved oxygen around, even at 10% efficiency. Third, capillaries, the tiny blood vessels where oxygen actually gets delivered to your cells. In ice fish, capillary diameter is 2 to 3 times wider than normal, giving more surface area for gas exchange. The piping is oversized because the fluid is underpowered. Fourth, the skin. Ice fish have no scales, and their skin is thin and permeable, so oxygen passes directly through the skin surface into the blood. So they're literally breathing through their body. Most fish can't do this efficiently. Ice fish made it a feature. Fifth, metabolism. They live extremely slow, with minimal energy expenditure and minimal oxygen demand. They don't chase, they don't sprint, they drift, they wait, they conserve. A life built around the constraint of running at 10% capacity every minute of every day for 25 million years. 5 workarounds, 5 patches on a missing engine. Any one of them alone would fail, but together, in one specific environment, they barely work. Honestly, the key word is underscore, underscore, quote, underscore, 0, underscore, underscore. But the missing hemoglobin isn't even the weirdest thing about this fish. The weirdest thing is that the water is cold enough to freeze it solid. So why doesn't it freeze? Antarctica, the Southern Ocean. Water temperature, negative 1.8 degrees Celsius. That's below the freezing point of normal fish blood. But ice fish blood runs at negative 1.9 degrees, which means the water around them is warmer than their freezing point. By every standard physical process you've been taught, ice crystals should form in their bloodstream and they should die. Naturally. So how do they survive? 1969, Stanford. Arthur DeVries discovers antifreeze glycoproteins, AFGPs. These molecules bind to microscopic ice crystals as they start forming and physically prevent them from growing larger, so the ice can't propagate and the blood stays liquid at temperatures that should turn it solid. Today, biotech companies are copying this protein for cryopreservation of organs and tissues. The ice fish solved a problem you're still working on, about 25 million years before you tried. Cool. But here's the part nobody mentions. The hemoglobin gene isn't gone. It's still there. In the ice fish genome, the gene for beta-globin, one of the two protein chains that make up hemoglobin, is present. And you can find it, sequence it, read it. But it's broken. A mutation roughly 8.5 million years ago introduced a frame shift, the genetic equivalent of a typo that makes the rest of the sentence unreadable. So what happens? The cell's machinery sees the gene, tries to read it, gets nonsense, and stops. The gene is a pseudogene now, a blueprint that nobody builds from. Evolution didn't delete it. Evolution doesn't delete things, it just stops reading them. The broken hemoglobin gene sits in the ice fish genome like a closed file cabinet in a building that hasn't been renovated, where everyone walks past it and nobody opens it. Yeah, and that tells you something uncomfortable about how evolution actually works. We like the story where evolution optimizes, where every change has a reason, where natural selection sharpens and refines. The ice fish broke that narrative. This wasn't optimization. This was a mutation that should have been lethal in an environment where it happened not to be. The cold water held enough dissolved oxygen that the fish didn't die, and the fish that should have been dead wasn't dead, so it kept going for 25 million years. Not a solution, a workaround. Not better, just not fatal. In one place, under one set of conditions. And those conditions are now changing on you. Antarctica is warming. The Southern Ocean is warming. So what happens if water temperature rises above negative 1 degree Celsius? The math changes. Warmer water holds less dissolved oxygen, and the ice fish's entire compensation system, the big heart, the extra blood, the wide capillaries, the skin breathing, all of it was calibrated for a specific oxygen concentration in the water. Raise the temperature by a degree, and the oxygen drops below the threshold where 10% efficiency can sustain life. 25 million years of working biology. An entire evolutionary lineage that solved a problem nobody else had to solve. And the solution only works in cold water. The cold water is leaving. The ice fish can't evolve hemoglobin back. The gene is broken. The machinery is gone. And evolution doesn't reverse engineer on demand. They are locked into a solution that requires conditions that are disappearing. The Patagonian toothfish, same suborder, same Antarctic waters, kept its hemoglobin and is doing fine. The crocodile ice fish bet everything on a single workaround, and a 1 degree swing is the difference between the workaround holding and the workaround failing. Ice fish broke the rule that defines being a vertebrate. They removed hemoglobin and didn't die. They built a workaround out of larger hearts, slower lives, and antifreeze in the blood. They've been running this experiment for 25 million years in a cold bath that lets the workaround function. And now, we're warming the bath. That's it. Sleep will be interesting tonight. The ice fish lost something and survived. The next animal lost something too, and turned that loss into the most overpowered weapon in the animal kingdom. A punch faster than a bullet, underwater, from something the size of a banana.